All right, what's up, guys? Actually, I like to be honest with the process, man. This is my second take. I'm gonna try to knock out less than 20 minutes. I really gotta. I'm telling you again. I'll be honest with the process. It's my second take on trying to do an optimistic Knicks fan, and I want to talk about the legendary Mark Jones again. A great announcer. He did the honors of sitting down. It shows you, man, that this medium here about talking hoops and all this. I'm one of these guys that want to, and I'm gonna preface it with that. But the fact that he's sitting down and talking with a YouTube channel, a self-started YouTube channel, one of my favorite channels, the first sports. First pure sports platform that I subscribe to, and that was Knicks Fan TV. And one of them ones that inspired me to want to, do something. Again, I don't want to do something that's Knicks centered, but I do have a Knicks segment, and this is the Ultimate Knicks Fan. But the fact that guy can sit down with self-started YouTube channel, that's great. Shout out to CP. But I will have to call out their conversation. And again, I know he's in a position where you're gonna get a big guy like that on. You're not gonna call out his take on the spot, but I can do it. And again, I've done it. Well, I've sat there several times and said, CP, you need to call certain guys out on certain controversial takes. And again, it might not be a controversial take because this is kind of sometimes anti-Nickdom is accepted, right? Anti-Nick takes are accepted. And it's not necessarily like it was an egregious anti-Nick take. It was just a few things that I have a problem with when it comes to coverage and, especially ESPN. That's why I'm titling the video, Mark Jones, you've been working for ESPN too long. Again, I also learned in the course of the interview, he's the home voice. Just like Mike Breen is the home voice of the Knicks, right? He's the number one home voice of the Sacramento Kings. So, I guess he's the Mike Breen of the West, right? Good. Again, he's a good, I believe, again, his take of being what it is. But, one thing he said three things that three takes he had when assessing the East. They kind of bothered me, and I was surprised that nobody even in the comments gave any pushback to it. First thing he said is that the Cavs are front runners in the East, and that's fine, right? They deserve. I would say they deserve to be front runners, even though the playoffs played it the way they played. But he said the Knicks are a large notch below. Now that's the part that I have a problem with. And again, you can go again. I'm a objective Knicks fan, and I'm an optimistic Knicks fan, right? So, and I'm one of them Knicks fans that say that's why I do this channel. This segment, and why if you've seen me preview certain I did previews of all 3 rounds that the Knicks were in, and it's crazy. I was right on 2 of them and dead wrong on the 3rd one, right? And look, I did it as they came. I didn't sit there and say, oh, the Knicks are going to the finals at the beginning. I did it based on what I was seeing at the time and I was feeling. And I didn't like what I saw coming into the playoff. This is why I called for and predicted, based on what would happen, the firing of Tom Thibodeau, right? So, I did the coaching search and all that. So again, and it's funny because this is a guy who knows how good of a coach Mike Brown is, right? He's worked with Mike Brown, and but one of the things that is happening again is the Knicks roster is being severely underrated. So now they did a really good conversation on how Mike Brown and his offense is similar to the one they used in Sacramento, which was, you go back and look at it, they were putting up elite numbers. They were putting up elite offensive rating numbers. They were putting up elite points per game numbers. Now, I really thought that two years ago they would beat Golden State, and that series came down to the wire, right? I was in Brazil. I remember just getting to Brazil, and I think OKC had won game one, and I felt good about picking OKC in that series. So lo and behold, right? He said that the Knicks are a notch below, and I cannot understand why anybody thinks that the Knicks are a notch below the Cavs. I can't, because really the only thing the Cavs have done that the Knicks haven't done at this point is win 64 games in a regular season. Now, if you believe that tells you that the Cavs are going to be a great regular season team again, and the Knicks are a notch below that, okay, that's fair. But as far as playoff threat, the Knicks have proven that they should be a threat in any playoffs, and they should be considered on the same level. And that's the thing, on the same level as the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right? So that's the first take that I have an issue with. The second take is he comes to Atlanta, right? So because they were asking, okay, who are the next teams? And again, I think, look, a lot of people like Atlanta. Atlanta seems like a decent team on paper. You guys got to really realize what you're looking at. Atlanta, and again, I like Jalen Johnson. If they go more towards featuring Jalen Johnson, and again, Trae Young, we know who he is. We know his talent. There's something missing there. And I'm going to say it off the bat, but if you're looking at two of the three major pieces, and I get Dyson Daniels. Again, a great individual defensive player, but a guy who was chopped up by my captain, Jalen Brunson. Again, a great individual defensive talent, but a guy who was chopped up by my captain, Jalen Brunson. So, cool that you like these guys, and you have every right to like them as a team, but I don't think they've done anything, especially even getting Alexander Walker, again, a second defender, and with Porzingis, if healthy, because that's always the key with Kristaps Porzingis, if healthy, if he can, again, for 2 years, this guy has not shown you he can be healthy and get to the playoffs and give you anything significant for 2 years running. 1 year his team won without him. That second year, this mysterious viral infection sapped his strength like Samson. And it really affected him throughout the majority of the season. So, if you got, Detroit is the one I feel that gets no respect, because Detroit, for all intents and purposes, especially considering, okay, they pretty much stood pat. They might losing Tim Hardaway Jr. means nothing. I'll take Duncan Robinson in his same spot. If the Malik Beasley situation works out to no suspension, then I'll live with him, right? But Detroit and Orlando deserve a lot more respect than Atlanta. Everybody loves Atlanta because of Trae Young. And again, this is that glorifying a quote-unquote superstar thing that they like to do, because you see a quote-unquote star. And again, Trae Young is not a superstar. Trae Young is a star at best, and again, he is not a guy that I want to be the focus on. If you're telling me that Jalen Johnson takes a major step up, and again, to me, in this situation, he would be like a Cade Cunningham who's got to get some playoff mileage on him. I don't like, and trust me, that 2021 playoff run, what has Trae Young done in the playoffs since then? You tell me. Please, someone tell me, what has Trae Young done in the playoffs? We've seen him in the play-in tournament. But yeah, because they lost. Yeah, that's what he was whining about losing or whatever the playoff spot. I don't remember. Oh, yeah. I gotta remember, because honestly, like I said, if Atlanta got to the playoffs, then they were the ones slept by Cleveland. I don't even remember who was the AC last year, but I remember Trae Young saying, "Get rid of that tournament. Get rid of that play-in tournament. We don't need it." Well, here's the thing, bro. The fact that you can't lead a team to a top 6 seed already shows you ain't that guy. Instead of complaining about the play-in tournament, whether you got there or you didn't, right? Or you lost your spot because you lost in the play-in tournament, that shows me you ain't the guy. Because your attitude should be, oh yeah, next year when we get the troops back, we definitely gaining the top 6 spot. We definitely gaining. I just don't see it. If he's the leader of the team, hell no. Okay, cool. They love it because Trae Young is a darling, and people just gonna ignore the fact that he hasn't done shit in the last 4 years of significance outside of putting up regular season stats. It's always been everybody else's fault, despite the fact that he has a gang of players around him. He has a gang of good ball players around him, good centers, good wings. He's done nothing. Okay, they broke up his team. They traded everybody that was around him. At some point, the problem is not the players around him; it's him. Okay, cool. I'm the Trae Young hater. I just call it. I know the fact is I call it how I see it. I don't care that he rolled the dice on the logo, and I don't care that he hushed up the garden five years ago now. I don't care. The Knicks have done way more significant things in the playoffs and any big spots since then than him. Because again, they went like 3-6 after that, and that's why they asses ended up in the 8th seed. The Knicks went on 9-0 after that Vegas, after the rolling the dice on the logo. But again, you know how it goes. He uses the Knicks for relevancy. Oh yeah, I remember they didn't make the playoffs because he was tweeting shit about the Knicks from the sideline. Anyway, okay. The next issue that I have was him saying injuries happened to Boston. And again, Boston, just like OKC, and again, everybody, and he corrected himself because he said, I don't think OKC is going to win next year. Same take that I have. Because it's hard. It's not, stylistically, it's hard. It's hard to go back to back now. A team has to be really well coached and really well oiled. This period has started in the NBA. It's like 71 through 89, 88, well, basically 68, the end of the Celtics dynasty, until 88, when you didn't have a repeat champion for 19 years, right? When the Lakers did it. It was unheard of for teams to go back-to-back because great teams were assembled that, for whatever reason, didn't go back-to-back. Well, again, the parity of the league, the fact that, dynasties weren't really supposed to be a thing until you had a genius like Red Auerbach, and then you had a genius like Michael Jordan. Forget the guys that Phil Jackson and all that, but Michael Jordan was so good, and the league built upon that. Then you got Kobe. Then again, NBA history will prove itself out. But right now, the league has level set to where, you're gonna have to have health. You're gonna have to have everything go right to get a repeat champion. So that everybody, like I said, the theme that I've maintained, 9 or 10 teams can legitimately say they can win it all next year. A few teams can get in that mix if things break right, and the rest of them should be worried about finding the next big star, the next big co-star. Okay? I'll say this consistently. No, nothing happened to the Celtics. The Knicks happened to the Celtics. The Knicks are a team that really should be taken seriously. Again, we all know what happened in the Indiana series, right? The Knicks ran into a matchup that stylistically with the coach, and again, I think I blame Thibodeau more than the roster, more than anybody else, particularly because, again, if you listen to the beginning of that video, you saw how there was meat on the bone about the two-man game that should have been Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. And I specifically pointed that out many, many times. It's like, what the hell? Why is that two-man game not working? Where is the disconnect? And I believe that was in Thibodeau's offense and Thibodeau's coaching. Especially considering, again, you got 3 or 4 guys around them. Now, again, Knicks at 26 in my campaign, you know, I'm gonna trumpet it louder. Hopefully, you know, as this channel grow, y'all grow with me. Those, especially the Knicks fans and even Knicks haters, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. All right, hopefully Mike Brown, black coach, good coach, guy that kind of got a couple raw deals in the league, is the guy that gets it done. And you know, again, you're in this position where chips on the table. Everybody involved. If any of these guys bring the Knicks to champion, they will be legends forever. Okay? So, with that said, here we are. We're at this point where, you know, we get to going into the new season. Now, he you know, again, he did say when he said nobody had no. There were a few Knicks fans, and I was one of them. They said they maintained the whole time we could be Boston. There was a few Knicks fans like myself that maintained. You know, and I don't own the rights to this music, man. You know, it's playing on the radio, so you know, fair use. Yeah, the Knicks are definitely one of the contenders. They've earned it. You know, it's gonna be a wide open situation, and we, again, to win this championship, we're gonna have to take it. Period. Right now, the Knicks are the most equipped that they've been since the Willis Reed era. Those Ewing Knicks teams were fine teams. Defensively, elite. Offensively, left something to be desired. Ewing was a great player. Didn't have the point guard to make his life easier after 92. Never got it. Never got that second all-star level scorer. He had a lot of 8, 16, you know, John Starks was good for 17, 18 points a game. Ewing needed another, especially going against Jordan and Pippen, Ewing needed another guy that gets 23, 24, especially on the perimeter to give Jordan or Pippen a run for their money. Somebody to get you know, tire them out, where Ewing could be the guy that go at their front court while Jordan or Pippen were in the battle. That was always the strategy, and the Knicks never could put that right formula around there and get to the damn series to give the Bulls a run for their money. You know, one of those years it was supposed to happen and never did. All right. You know, obviously the 25 years of, you know, again, same thing happened with Melo. You know, the vision was supposed to be him and Amari Stoudemire. Amari's knees could not hold up his end of the bargain. Unfortunate. But we move on. Now, you know, Phil Jackson, that era, set the Knicks back another 10 years. I said that with my chat with Carcino today. And now, again, you hear the Knicks are now in position. And that's why I put this as an optimistic Knicks fan segment, because they're going to sleep on us. They're not going to give the Knicks their credit. They're going to tell you that OKC is far and ahead of everybody else. They're not. They're good. They're great. They're great. But they're not far ahead of them. And the Pacers prove that. You know, some of your guys still believe that if Halliburton doesn't get hurt, I mean, yeah, anything could happen. Again, if, doesn't matter. It happened. Now we're in a situation where, yeah, you got to build, you know, you better be built for a war. The Knicks have to make things break right. And the Knicks need to work, really concern themselves who's on that roster, who we develop. You know, we have to do all that. There you go. Getting beyond that, now it's time. Now it's time. So, really, the parity that they talked about, this is something that me and JB have been talking about for years. Nobody will see it because we weren't on any platform to say it. It wasn't recorded. It was recorded. Unfortunately, those conversations are gone because JB lost his Facebook profile. We would talk back and forth through the, voice messages. If this was saved, I could go back and, but what does it matter? Why I got to go through searching for all that? You're going to hear it now. I've maintained since 2020, since 2018. You're not going to see many more repeat champions. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. I saw what was going on with the salary cap issue. How the players were pushing back on, how the owners were pushing back on the player empowerment movement. I saw, I saw people, the money gets so absurd to where these players are not turning down max contracts. Now, shout out to Jalen Brunson, who took a less than max deal. Again, he didn't make a pay cut, he just took a less than max deal. The salaries are going to escalate as the TV money comes in. What your percentage of what a max player or what an all-NBA player can get of the salary cap is going to go up. And again, a lot of these guys are taking it. They're taking that 35%. Because you get 30% as like an all-star, whatever, if you're the best player on the team, and it is also based on what you made before. So again, this is why the max deal for LeBron is different than the max deal for SCA or Jimmy Butler or whatever, because those guys took out, and LeBron, to his credit, did take less at earlier stages in his career. Cool. And yeah, doing those 1 and 2 year deals has also flattened out his max. So cool on that end. Now, what do we have? Well, again, we have a wide open field, and it's going to be all about who did you develop, what do you have, what do you have as far as perimeter defense, what do you have as far as, what your concept is. It's all going to be about styles. It's going to be about styles and coaching and player performances. So, the Knicks are as good as anybody. Don't let anybody, ESPN, Mark Jones, or any of these experts tell you they're not, because they are. And, I'm going to go there. The Knicks should be definitely favored in the East. I have no problem with OKC being a favorite in the West. I was talking about the Clippers, how they got a lot better today with the Bradley Beal situation. Not to the core of their team. They just got something that will help them they got another piece, another tool that will help them get through the 82-game season. You need everything you can get. You take everything you can get. Stop being, as I say when I look at Ben Simmons as a potential guy that the Knicks could get at the end of this free agency period, that, okay, nobody else gave him any real money, which no one should. Okay, come into the Knicks and rehabilitate yourself into a role. You might be counting on to be in that role. You know what I'm saying? It helps you get another deal somewhere else. Come here for the 1 year. This is what players have to do when they're in situations like that. If he wants to still win, if he wants to still be a great player, he'll never regain the number 1 pick status, but a lot of guys, a lot of top level pick guys who didn't work out, who didn't become exactly what you expected, panned out. They found a second act. Even Derrick Rose, after all his injury problems, he found a second act. Do that. Okay, cool. I'm gonna end up here. I'm gonna wait pretty long, but yeah, man. Like I said, Mark Jones, you're a legend. But you've been working for. If you think that the Knicks are a notch below Cleveland, you've been working for ESPN too long, and I don't know what the hell you're watching. Peace.